a special episode of the Random Battle, a Westeros-themed episode starring the tandem of Dally, Steven, and Sean, the Lonely TARDIS crew, as we travel. Is it back in time or forward in time? I'm not 100% sure. To the world of Westeros, the land of A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah, probably a whole other universe, actually. This is probably some multi-dimensional hopping for us.
Welcome, gentlemen. Well, that was lovely Sean Norton's voice that you just heard there. Also joining us is Steve Strom.
Hello, I'm Sean. That other guy's
That's
Steve.
Me. Sean was going to... For the rest of this episode, Sean will be playing the role of Steven Strom.
Excellent.
I will be taking a nap.
Yes, and hopefully getting your Wi-Fi running well enough.
Sorry?
Anyway, so, the reason I'm saying it's a great, awesome episode is that we got a special guest joining us today. We are going to be interviewing the one, the only George R.R. Martin here in a short while. And I'm pretty excited. I don't know about you guys.
Oh, I'm beyond excited. This is an unbelievable opportunity. I have no words for it.
Great. I think it's really going to be a fantastic episode. Meanwhile, our wonderful friend Steven Strom is having issues. Sean, can you hear me all right? Or Mike doing okay on this side?
No, loud and clear. You hear me okay?
I hear you beautifully, so it must be Steven as usual.
Every time with this guy.
Every time with this kid. Anyways, we've already prepared a few questions, but what are you guys what are you guys excited to hear about or hoping that he'll divulge info for, it really is a no-holds-barred interview from what we've prepared.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to cover a lot of stuff. I'm interested in kind of learning just a little more about, his take on his expanded universe and everything that's tying together and television and potential games and all this other stuff. And then there's just some random questions I'm kind of excited to ask him about too.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. He's become kind of a rock star author over the last few years, especially these past couple of years. So I'm pretty stoked to see how he's taken to that. How to the point where he's noticeable on the streets, I guess. And
oh yeah,
and his books really have inspired a ton of things from their own awesome TV show to a lot of other games and movies and TV shows and novellas and stuff. All cite. The Game of Thrones series, A Song of Ice and Fire, as an inspiration.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a relatively, new fan of his. I was introduced once the TV show aired last year, and then I kind of blew through all 5 books in a couple of months last year, and it's just been, It's been great. It's great reading. It's great television. I know when I first watched it, and I caught up, and you're seeing what happens with Ned Stark and everything else, and it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing what he does, the choices he makes, and just how he treats his characters, and in addition to the worlds he builds and everything else he accomplishes. It's pretty amazing and pretty radical compared to what a lot of other authors and a lot of other writers do.
You mean how he abuses his characters, right?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes he does.
Horrifying things.
Yes. Well, I mean, I'm really excited because, like you, Sean, I got into it with the TV show, and since then I've been on the reading binge, I guess you could say, of reading his work of the books, and I've actually been kind of doing it backwards. I watched the TV show first, and then I listened to the audiobook for the first book, Game of Thrones, and then I read the actual physical book.
You read the book after listening to the audiobook?
Yeah, but the amazing thing was every time it just kept getting more and more truer to the spirit of what the book was saying. So when I finally read that book, I said, "Oh yeah, that's exactly what he was saying in the TV show." I mean, they align themselves. Either that or the casting and stuff of the show was done so well that it just played perfectly.
I wish I could do the audiobook thing. I can't, because I can't handle dudes doing women voices. Like, it's just too weird for me. I can't deal with that.
Oh,
So.
the Game of Thrones, or I'm sorry, the whole series, I guess you could say, the audiobooks have been fantastic. Roy Dotrice does the audio for it, does the voiceover, and it really is fantastic. He does do women's voices, but it's wonderful. He does a great job of it. You don't
I've
notice.
been spoiled by radio dramas. It's my fault.
Yeah. So we'll have George on the line here in just a second. We're waiting for him to get ready. Is there anything else that you guys are excited about? I mean, he's working on a lot of projects right now, apart from the series, which is why obviously there hasn't been a firm date set for the next book, and why there have been a lot of books in between. But is there anything? I know, Steven, you had a great question. You were wondering what he could maybe look at doing beyond fantasy books.
Right. Well, he, by the looks of it, he started off doing a lot of sci-fi stuff, and I want to know if he has any intention of returning back to sci-fi, because I traditionally don't like fantasy books very, very much. This is kind of the first fantasy series I've read in a long time, and probably the only one I've enjoyed thoroughly like this, at least like high fantasy or low fantasy or what have you, like this kind of sword and horses thing. But I'd like to see him go back to sci-fi or science fiction, or at least know if he's going to go back to science fiction and see what he would do now that he is such a big name. See if he could do the same thing with science fiction that he did to fantasy stuff by dragging out the characters and making them the center of attention rather than the world or the technology or whatever.
Yeah. I wonder if he has kind of an ideal timeline. Obviously, there will be, nobody knows when the next book will come or one after that, but there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek kind of reactions among fans and among people. They're kind of worried that it's like, yeah, he's never going to finish these books, and we're all going to kind of be screwed. So I wonder if he has his own kind of personal goals or maybe ideas of when he'd like to see it kind of pan out, whether or not it's the next 5 years for both or the next 10 years for both or something like that.
I mean, everybody thought that Stephen King was going to finish the Dark Tower series for years and years, but we saw how that turned out. And now most people probably wish he hadn't finished that series. So it's a difficult question. I mean, it's a difficult topic to broach probably, because it's like, hey, do you think you're going to die before this is done? Like,
obviously you. That's why I said you tongue in cheek, and you just kind of be like, hey, so how do you feel about these people are kind of worried about that? Kind of silly, aren't they? Ha ha, waka waka.
When was the last time you had a physical?
On that note, let's see if we can get George on the call here. All right, gentlemen?
I won't bring that up during the interview.
Hi, Mr. Martin.
It's me.
Hi, how's it going? This is Dolly from SideQuesting. Pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, nice to talk to you.
Yes, thank you for taking some time with us today.
Where are you calling from?
I'm from Detroit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, home of the Detroit Lions. I know you're a Giants fan, so you must be pretty happy for the Super Bowl result.
I'm flying high, yeah. Well, you guys had a pretty good season too.
Yeah, we did all right. I thought hopefully in the next couple of years here we'll be where the Giants are. So we're hopeful.
It's been a long time in Detroit, man.
Oh man, you don't know the half of it. Well, also, I have a couple of my co-editors with me, Steven Strom and Sean Norton.
Hello. Hiya.
Well, we just had a few questions. We know you're super busy with everything that's going on right now, but we're gonna just kind of throw out some questions here, and hopefully you can help us through them. So, one of the things that we've been following of your work, obviously, is you've had just a ton of successes throughout your career and across all your endeavors. So, like, how is the most recent boom of success, I guess you could say, thanks to like the TV show, the Dance with Dragons, everything else you're working on, everything you have coming up? How has that affected you, from a both personal and professional perspective?
Well, it's been very exciting. I mean, I think by most standards, I've been a successful writer for a very long time. But never to this level. Dance with Dragons has been on the New York Times bestseller list pretty much since it came out in July, and it's still on the list. It's up there for, I've lost track of how many weeks, something like 40 weeks or something like that. And the TV show, I think one of the things that's happening that's has taken most getting used to is people are starting to recognize me. So, I've always had a certain amount of celebrity within a small subculture of science fiction fandom, and I could go to a convention and people would recognize me. But I've never been recognized in the street before, or in restaurants, or in airports, and that's started to happen now, where, I'll be hurrying to catch a plane at O'Hare, and suddenly someone will stop me and ask for an autograph and all that. So it's a little disconcerting, actually. It's exciting, it's fun, the people are nice, but it's still, every time it happens, it takes me unaware. I keep sort of looking behind me to see, is there a movie star around here that I haven't noticed, but it's been an amazing year.
Well, one of the things that you've been great at is connecting with your fans and fans of your work with obviously at the conventions and your blog. I mean, has technology helped bridge that gap a little bit?
Well, the internet has certainly changed things. I mean, I've been going to science fiction conventions since 1971, and to comic conventions even longer than that, since 1963, I think. So I've always had that, I had already sold 2 stories by the time I attended my first SF convention in 1971. So I've always had the relationship with my fans that I would meet there, and I've done signings and all that. And in the old days, before the internet, you would get some email, and I would get a few letters a year, and I would usually respond to them. But of course, email has changed that whole equation, and where I used to get 1 letter, or maybe at the height of my success before the internet, maybe 10 letters. Now I get 10 letters a day sometimes more than that. When something major happens, like the show goes on or the book comes out, I get a flood of letters. 95% of them are wonderful letters. I just, I still do read them all. I can't possibly respond to them all, though, like I used to 20, 30 years ago. There's simply too many of them, and there's not enough time in the day. But it's nice to hear from.
Definitely.
There is a downside to it, too, which is, the nature of the internet and the anonymity afforded by the internet does tend to bring out the trolls and, similar creatures who will take advantage of the fact that they don't have to attach their name to anything. And they'll say things in email or online that, in the old days, nobody would ever dare say to your face. But every benefit comes with its price, I guess. So.
Sure.
And they're a small minority, so I'm certainly glad for the vast majority of my fans. I have the best fans in the world.
Actually, speaking of science and technology and whatnot, I guess I was pretty curious about your earlier science fiction work and stuff like that, the sort of the pre-Song of Ice and Fire stuff. I was wondering if I could ask you if you intend to start going back towards science fiction at any point, and if so, do you think you could maybe do something as important for the sort of modern science fiction in the mainstream as you've maybe done with fantasy nowadays with the Song of Ice and Fire?
Well, I love science fiction. I did write a lot of science fiction, and I hope to write science fiction again. But when? That's the question.
Yeah.
The question is finding the time. I still have at least 2 more Ice and Fire books to begin and to deliver, rather, and they're huge books, as you know. The last one was about 1,500 pages of manuscript, and I have no reason to think that the next 2 will be any smaller. So they take years to write, and in addition to that, we get the TV show, which where I'm one of the co-executive producers on that. I write 1 script a year. That's time-consuming. I do edit science fiction, and I still do the Wild Card series, I write for occasionally and edit, which is science fiction. So I keep my hand in science fiction. But when will I find the time to do like a major science fiction novel again? I don't know. I'd like to do one, but it might be 10 years from now. And who knows who I'll be or what I'll be interested in doing 10 years from now. First, I have to get Ice and Fire finished. That's got to remain my top priority.
Of course.
Did I hear right when you said that you've got at least 2 more books in the series?
Well, I'm aiming for 2 books. But
Sure.
One thing the series has taught me is not to write anything in blood. Every time I make an estimate and then I change it, suddenly I get hundreds of outrage letters. So I make no promises anymore. But the plan is for 2 more books. Winds of Winter, which is the one I'm working on now, and then A Dream of Spring will be the last book. I hope, not would.
I don't think any of us would object to you making more books, but maybe it wouldn't be nice to see an ending to it sometime.
Well, I guess. I think a work of art needs an ending. Beginning, middle, and end. That's always been my philosophy.
Do you ever worry that you may not get to resolve some of the plot points in 7 books? Or some of the questions?
When I'm halfway through book 7, I'll probably worry about that. But right now, I'm still in the early stages of book 6, so I'm relatively optimistic.
Sure. Well, one of the things is that people have been asking us, and I'm sure you've been asked quite often, is Tyrion especially seems to be an overwhelming fan favorite for some of his witty dialogue and the kind of his epic journey. In your opinion, outside of Tyrion, who has had one of the more interesting story arcs?
Well, they're all interesting to me.
Yeah.
I'll leave it up to
sure.
Leave it up to readers and reviewers to decide who interests them most. But one of the things I do like about the series is there is such a large number of characters. I find that my readers really divide on who they like. Some of them will have Tyrion or Arya as favorite characters. Others like Daenerys or like Jon Snow. There are people who like Sansa, and at the same time, there are other readers who dislike these characters or are not interested in these characters. So, it's almost like as if they were real people, which is what we don't all like the same people. The people you like, I may not like very much, and vice versa. We see that all the time in our real lives, so why should it be true of fictional characters too? If you make the character real and fully fleshed, and they're kind of living human being there, I'm sure people are going to react to them in different ways. So I take the variety of reactions to some of these characters and who people are interested in and who people love and who people hate as a sign that I'm doing my job pretty well.
I got to admit, Tyrion is probably my favorite.
One thing that is true, I think, in the series is that many of the characters, perhaps even the majority of the characters, are outcast in some fashion or another.
Sure.
And it's a little different for each one. I mean, there are girls who are rebelling against the female roles of this basically patriarchal society. There's a fat kid who's not valued because he's fat. There's Tyrion who's the dwarf. There's Jon Snow who's the bastard. I find a lot of interest in that. The person who, for one reason or another, is not appreciated or valued in the world in which he lives, struggling to accomplish something in the world, to find a place for themselves, to make a name for themselves. And Tyrion is one of the clearest examples of that.
So the world of Westeros is just incredibly detailed. It's incredibly rich with its own history. I mean, you just get the sense from the books that there's so much more that's going on that can be said or done well beyond the pages. And that's actually saying something because you've put so much detail into each and every page of your 5 massive, massive works. What goes into that? What's kind of your process for building that out? Do you kind of have it already mapped, or do you build it as you go? I mean, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, the story comes first. I really began with the chapter where they find the direwolf pups. And, I started writing from there. And at the time I was writing that chapter, I knew it was north. I knew that the seasons were out of whack, and that they had snows in summer. I knew a few other things, but the world was largely a black haze. But at a certain point, when I'd written like 100 pages or so, and I'd thrown in a few other characters, and the canvas was bored me, I thought, well, I better sit down and make myself a map so I have some idea of this world.
Mm-hmm.
So the map came, several months into the process, and the map has been growing since then. But this is a question where every writer is different. I mean, somebody like Tolkien actually began with the histories and the maps and the genealogies and all of the stuff. And I know there are writers out there who work that way, do all of the world building before they begin to tell the story. But for me, the story comes first, the characters come first, and then the world sort of grows around it to grow together like two trees growing up and intertwining as they grow.
So with this giant world that you've created and all the aspects that have come about as the series has progressed, what do you see as some of the challenges of bringing those to the screen? Are there things that may work better than others?
Some of the magical stuff from the later books is going to be a little challenging. Mm-hmm. Some of it is mental, the warging and things like that. The people who are skin changing or entering into the minds of animals. How are they going to convey that? I'm sure Dan and David will figure out a way, but it is a challenge. I mean, the other big challenge of the television show faces is simply the scale of things. The books just keep getting bigger and bigger. There are more and more locations. There are more and more characters, new characters with every book. The plot splits into more and more different threads that are all intertwining. It's a lot to do. It's a big, tough assignment, but that's why doing this series is so challenging and I think so much fun.
Now, the TV program has proved to be a really popular interpretation of the story of Westeros. How do you see the kind of growing cross-media of the series taking shape? I mean, is it still true to your interpretation across comic books, tabletop games, video games?
Well, when I began writing these, I was writing just a novel or a series of novels, one big story in prose form. The fact that there are all these spin-off products, the TV series, the comic book, the games, and all that, that's cool, that's fun, that's exciting. I'm still enough of a geek to appreciate all this stuff. But at the same time, in some ways, these are, for me, these are secondary. For me, the books come first. That's the canon, so to speak. And, if there's a game that people enjoy, that's great. If there are miniatures, I love the miniatures. They're a fun thing. The replica swords, all of this stuff. It's fun, and I hope it's fun for my readers and fans as well as for myself. But it can never replace the books. I mean, my hope is that all this leads to a certain amount of synchronicity. So whether you get into it by playing the game or by watching the TV show or by picking up the comic book, eventually it'll lead you to actually pick up the books and read the books, which are the primary thing.
Well, I don't think I would want anything else to supplant the books myself. But we got kind of a capstone question here, and it's I was just going to say, what's the sort of one question or one topic that you would like to tell everyone about that nobody has ever asked you in one of these interviews or anything like this before? I always feel so weird about just asking people questions when I feel like it should be them just talking about what they want. So is there anything you would like to just sort of extemporate on about the series or anything like that that you've never gotten a chance to before?
All right. I've done a lot of interviews. It's hard to pick a topic that I haven't been asked about before. Of course, certain topics I'm asked about repeatedly, but I can't think of any major thing that I'm, dying to reveal here.
I suppose.
Well, I guess we'll kind of conclude our time with one last question, and George, we definitely thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
My pleasure.
Tom Coughlin staying or going?
Oh, he's staying.
That's right.
I want to keep all my giants. We're going to figure out a way to keep Mario Manningham and Brandon Jacobs too.
Definitely. Thank you very much, George, and take care.
Okay, you too. Take care. Bye.